Today we're going to travel to Ventura, California to visit Brandyn Feldman. Brandyn is a Navy veteran who's been involved with tattooing for 24 years. He is a machine builder and owner of Feldman Tool Company. Brandyn has an amazing surprise inside his shop, the Paul Rogers Iron Factory. Join us as we talk tattooing, machine building, and the history behind him acquiring the most famous shed in tattoo history. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
Thanks for coming up.
You and I have been talking for quite some time.
Yep.
We always talked about coming out here, and then this trip happens, and magically I'm here. How did you get into tattooing?
Kind of through the Navy. Even before I went in the Navy, I kind of started taking a liking to the idea of tattoos, probably from a nostalgic standpoint. And it just seemed, I guess, natural. U.S. Navy tattoos that kind of went hand in hand. There wasn't like a real artistic approach to it, I don't think. It seemed more like it just was kind of like the right natural thing to think about. And of course, I went in the Navy in the early 2000s. A lot of people said it's a different Navy than it probably was in terms of what I was thinking. Okay. What we see when we're growing up. Korea, Vietnam, World War II, that type of thing. So I just kind of I guess that was the appealing factor for me. I grew up kind of like making things. That hand-applied craft was appealing to me.
Okay.
And then it just snowballed, like it does for most.
So when you were a kid, though, were you into art?
Well, my great-grandmother, Naomi King, was an artist, actually kind of up the road. Okay. We drove up the coast a little bit. I showed you the coast. If you keep going up the 101, you get into Carpinteria and Montecito, Santa Barbara area.
Yeah.
So I grew up going up to Grandma's house on the weekends, and she lived in Montecito, and great-grandma Naomi lived in a trailer park, which you think trailer park, but what they got up there is pretty nice.
Right.
You're right on the ocean.
High end.
Semi-high end. So she had a long history of being an artist. So to answer your question shortly, not really, but I grew up being around Naomi, and I grew up around a kind of an artistic family. So there was definitely something there. I don't know if I needed to like express myself necessarily, but I think the craft of things is more, up my alley rather than, I can't draw for shit. But I can draw. It kind of makes no sense, but I can look at a tattoo and draw a tattoo. I understand the mechanics behind it, but I'm not composing.
So like creatively making out of thin air.
Yeah, I don't know that even my mind thinks like that. It does on a mechanical level, but as far as like an artistic level, no, it doesn't. I don't think that way. I understand the composition of tattoos because I've been around it so long.
Right. So who broke you in?
Well, I really broke myself in. I was like one of those, but the way that I do things is like I go around and gather information, and that's kind of how it happened. And then I got out of the Navy in 2003, and I started working at a couple different shops. One in particular was like more of a biker shop, and I started learning things and kind of cultivating. And it wasn't until I confidently could tattoo that I actually linked up with a man named Baby Ray, who ultimately helped me a tremendous amount. And that was in like 06, 07, 08.
Okay.
But I had already been tattooing and even building machines at that point. And maybe I've always taken the approach that I don't think learning stops. I don't think that you stop learning. You don't stop acquiring information. It's like you
continue to learn.
Yeah.
Just conversations that you and I've had. You've tattooed on the East Coast. You've tattooed on the West Coast. So you started on the West Coast?
Started on the West Coast. Well, yeah, I guess in a sense. Started on the West Coast, tattooed all over. When I was building machines in 2006, 2007, 8, 9, 10, so on and so forth, you could travel the country, right, and tattoo, maybe guest spots, and sell machines along the road, and it worked quite well. And I did that multiple times, and I'd drive from here to New York all the time.
On the East Coast, where did you work out of?
I've tattooed at a lot of different places, but in particular, a memorable place that I tattooed was with Tony Polito. I got to go and work with Steve Delgado and Tony Polito just for a matter of days, but that experience alone was pretty amazing. And I got to go to Steve's house and see his setup because it was illegal in New York. So he had a setup in his kitchen, which is all like taboo. And it's like, oh, we can't tattoo in the kitchen. But in those circumstances, it was awesome. I mean, he had a flash rack in his hallway.
Yeah, right. So we talk about that a lot where, the kitchen magicians now, there's really no need for it. There's plenty of shops to learn.
Yeah.
But, when you go back in the day, and a lot of old timers will say, hey, I taught myself.
Sure.
People need to understand, though, that they taught themselves because there was a lack of shops. Not only a lack of shops, but a lack of the ability to get into shops because it wasn't easy to break in back then.
And one of the takeaways I got from Steve and Tony was the conditions you were in. They would say, oh, you're from the West Coast. It's here on the East Coast. It's all about the conditions. So maybe it's perceived as like a West Coast tattoo artist may have had more of a luxury, maybe even in the terms of tattoos they were putting on, even maybe in the same time period, parallel to that. But it was all about the conditions. And I mean, the conditions on the East Coast have always been smaller. You see like smaller shops. I mean, I knew early on that there was an extreme difference between a West Coast and an East Coast tattoo artist, for sure. That was definitely a known thing.
So in your best way of putting it, what do you feel like is the biggest difference between West Coast and East Coast tattooing? Now or then? Let's go both.
Now I don't know how to put my finger on it because it's kind of like this melt. Now it's like this, it's homogenized, right? So even 10 or 15 years ago, there's more of a grit, I would say. There's definitely distinct style differences. And some say that the styles are produced on the West Coast and then trickle their way to the East Coast. And some say vice versa. And that could be seen throughout at least even in the last 100+ years of electric tattooing. You can see that,
Yeah.
I think on the East Coast, you've got more condensed areas of people. At least when there was less amount of shops, that produced a certain outcome on the East Coast that is different than what the West Coast had to offer. Okay. And also, I think the West Coast, it's just a different mindset. You had things happening in the 70s on the West Coast that were like fundamentally changing the tattoo landscape as far as like artistic approach. Not that it wasn't happening on the East Coast, but it was more prevalent, I think, on the West Coast. But that's just, we're going off of history here. We're just...
Yeah, so I had Sailor Eddie, when I interviewed him, he talked about that, where he said that, he said he didn't think he could tattoo on the West Coast. And I said, why? And he said, well, look, Philadelphia Eddie in the 70s went out to the West Coast and couldn't make it. Mm-hmm. He went back. Mm-hmm. He said, and he said, there was people that came to the East Coast and tattooed, and they wound up coming back because they couldn't cut it. Because there's just this difference.
I mean, I lived on the East Coast. I lived in Nashville, where you're kind of raised for the most part is where you want to go. And although I'm from Los Angeles and we're here in Ventura County, the minute I moved away from California, I yearned for California.
Yeah.
And I think that has nothing to do with tattooing. It's more of a humanistic instinct.
Yeah, I mean, like I grew up in the Pittsburgh area, and I still call it home.
Sure.
Can't live there.
Yeah.
But I still call it home.
Yeah.
So I get that. That makes sense. So at what point, I know you just said that you were already interested in building machines, but when did it really start to take off for you?
The machine aspect started as a curiosity, but also I grew up around car restoration. I grew up around one of my largest influences is a man named Joe Renato. He restores light fixtures and also mechanical instruments, musical mechanical instruments. Just being around that mechanical aspect and building things lended its hand into tattoo machine building. But when some people say tattoo machine building, that's to me, it's tattoo machine mechanics versus building. I think that there's a very strong difference between designing the geometry and the tolerances for one's design versus mechanicking on a tattoo machine frame or somebody else's tattoo machine frame, which is, they're both noble crafts, but
different animal.
I maybe took it in a literal sense where I was like, I'm going to build a tattoo machine, and that's what I did. And what happened was it kind of snowballed out of control. So what happened was I made, I couldn't understand how to make a frame other than the influences around me, which would have been Joe, my dad, and a few other outside of tattooing craftspeople that, or machinists and people that understood things. So I made a mold. I made a master wooden, basically a loose pattern, and I cast these pieces, and we sandcast them. And there's draft. There's vertical draft on all vertical surfaces, so that you could pull the pattern out of the sand.
Yeah.
And you got to machine that off because you can't have a coil sitting on an angle. And that was then the new obsession, because I had filed frames and fucked around with all of that. But I had a guy that was friends with Joe that had a milling machine. And he kind of looked at the casting and he's like, this is the approach. And he milled it flat for me. And to me, that was incredible, right? So now the new obsession was, I got to learn how to be a machinist. So what ended up happening was, I mean, I had tattoo shop by then. I had started a tattoo shop in Hollywood. I started working at machine shops in the morning for free. Basically just to get my foot in the door. It sounds crazy, like, oh, you got to work for free to get your foot in the door. Everyone complains about, oh, apprenticeships, work for free to get your foot in the door. You go to a machine shop as a tattooed kid that doesn't know dick about dick. What do I say? You got to work for free to kind of, so started working for free to try to get a little, maybe earn a little respect and get a little knowledge. And I would, in tandem, go to the library, and I got a machinery's handbook. Okay. Which was gibberish to me at that point, because I mean, you kind of know how to measure things in fractional, right? The decimal is like
you start working with micrometers and slides. You're like, ooh, eighths, tenths, hundredths.
Even down to like, how do you call the screw terminology? 8-32. I thought that was 8/32 for a long time. I was like, and I would say that and I would get corrected, and it was embarrassing. So then I figured out, oh, number 8 screw, 32 threads per inch. Yeah. You know, but you start to, you know, there starts to be like this, oh, I got to be able to fucking talk this language. So that snowballed into a complete obsession, and I bought a Bridgeport. Okay. I bought, not this one, but I bought a pulley style J-head Bridgeport and a Logan lathe. And that was the gateway drug.
So then at that point you were working as a apprentice for a shop.
Oh yeah. I was
sweeping chips, doing cool.
And then I would go to and tattoo all day long until 2:00 in the morning, rinse and repeat. Because now I had tattooing, which I was madly in love with, and I had this newfound love, which was, how do I machine things accurately? And I'm the type of person where if it's not absolutely perfect, I can't fucking let it go until I get it somehow where I want it.
Being a machinist is a perfect trade for you then.
Yeah.
Then you get into the whole thing with, you know, building machines. You're vested now. You're really cranking it. Like,
yeah. And I'm starting to buy equipment, and I'm starting to like go down that road, which it was a long road for, I mean, I'm still on the road. It's a lot to really take in, you know?
Yeah, you're getting the brand name recognition for your machines.
Well, I started making machines, and I had machine shops that I would try to have make parts, but they wouldn't make them to my liking. Okay. And then I started making them on Bridgeports, and also, a lot of times I just don't have enough money to fit a minimum, you know? So that kind of makes, you got to get creative.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, you said that there was a difference between builders and mechanics, basically.
I think there's not a difference between the individuals, but I do think that there is a difference between, if if you say that you work on machines or if you say that you build machines,
There is a difference.
I kind of feel like if you build machines, you actually are from scratch building machines. And as we sit in front of the pinnacle of where that all took place, this is a place where machines were built and also mechanicked on. But I think everyone that tattoos, I could be wrong on this, but I think everyone that tattoos should be a mechanic of some sort.
Yeah, so I actually ran that past Mike Schwager when I was interviewing him.
That guy's great.
And I said, hey man, you know, like I know you build machines, and he said, well, I'm more of a mechanic. I'm not really a builder.
Yeah.
And he kind of basically is saying the same thing you're saying.
Yeah.
So you're not building it from scratch. You're tweaking, fixing. You're a mechanic. You just brought it up. How did you acquire?
It acquired me more than I acquired it. Okay, so what happened was I moved to Nashville in 2012, and then I ended up moving to Maryland in 2019. Went through the whole pandemic thing and basically stayed in the machine shop the whole time. I started meeting some folks, in particular a guy named Awesome James. Great guy, he's got a tattoo shop out in Maryland. He came to visit, and he had mentioned to me that Tom Beasley had the iron factory. And I think I knew that he had it, but it wasn't something that I was like thinking about a lot. But the minute James said that, I was like, could you make an introduction? I met Tom. I mean, I'll never forget like going into Dragon Moon and meeting Tom and just kind of like knowing that like him and I were going to get along pretty quick. Whether I saw the shed, got the shed, it didn't really matter. But it was, I kind of felt like out of place at that time in my life in Maryland. And my wife and I, we had a few friends in Maryland and stuff. But mostly I was like, man, it'd be nice to have community. And it was kind of instant community with Tom and Mick. I ended up going and checking out the iron factory, and I talked to Tom and expressed my, I guess I let him kind of get to know me, and then I expressed I would restore this and kind of go bonkers on it if I was able to get it. And I mean, you'll ask him when you interview him one day, but I think he kind of knew I would, you know, inherently. I think inherently he just like, this guy's going to do this.
Right.
So the conversation then became, you know, when are we going to do this? And obviously it's the East Coast, it gets cold, and we had to kind of plan. And I had a warehouse to put it in, which was not a problem. And I had the workspace to do it, and you know, the means to do it. And probably the crazy, I have enough crazy in my head to figure out how to do it. Because when I got it, it didn't look like what you see it. It was empty.
Right. So
I mean, it was a shell.
So we're going to show pictures of this shed, but I want you to explain, because you said the same thing since I walked in. This is not what it looked like. It was just a shell.
Well, you know, when Paul passed, and that could be its own episode, is kind of like the culmination of where did this stuff go, and like, you know, how did it get spread out? But I'll kind of go back to where we were. And so now I realize, okay, I'm going to get this, and just kind of planning it. It didn't take long. It was just a matter of a month or something like that. And I knew of a trailer because I have all this equipment. I actually learned early on how to rig out equipment up to about 8,500 pounds.
Yeah, well, you're moving machines around.
Well, you pay a rigger $2,000 every time you want to buy a machine. When you've got a problem like I do, it starts to hurt your feelings a little bit. So I figured it out. And when I figured out what a Johnson bar and machine skates and how to drive a forklift, and I've actually gotten certified up to I can drive a yard dog at this point. Okay. I can move. I can move probably a 20,000 pound machine, but once it goes over about 8,500 pounds, you just let the rigger do it, because if they drop it, they buy it. Gotcha. If I drop it, I'm effed. So anyway, I get the obsession is now going, and I just started calling people that knew Paul, and I was like, I got to put this together. How am I going to do this? And it wasn't maybe a thought of how I'm going to do this, but it was more of like, I have to get every piece of picture video snippet. A guy named Eddie Sevich, Fast Eddie, helped me a bunch. He's a wealth of knowledge. A lot of different people. And Tom in particular knew Paul really well. I talked to Dana. I talked to Captain Don. No, Doc Don in Metairie. A lot of people that understand Eric Inksmith. I mean, it's really cool, actually. I can confidently tell you that Paul Rogers was a person that left this planet as a large, huge form of energy. I mean, his energy's in this place. I mean, you can feel it. You know, everybody loves Paul Rogers.
Yeah,
you're not going to find somebody that doesn't love Paul Rogers.
That actually just popped in my head as you were getting ready to say it.
Yeah,
because I was like, I don't think you're going to ever find anybody that has anything bad to say about.
How do you walk this life? Number one, as a person. Number two, as a person in the tattoo world, without somebody not liking you. Nobody disliked Paul Rogers.
Yeah.
And I know that for a fact. And everybody loves this thing. And this in fact is open. I mean, if you want to see it, I won't say no, because this is our lineage. This is part of our walkable history. Like, how do you get into tattoo history? How do you walk into it other than go into an old shop and things like that? But this is it. Like, this is where it comes from. To me, it's, I mean, if you think about it, like I kind of freak out when I think about it too hard, because it's like, how did I end up with this, you know?
Yeah.
And I can just get in it, you know?
What's crazy to me is today, you know, we talked before.
Sure.
And then we walked in here and I saw it. I knew what it was.
Yeah.
I knew why I was here.
Sure.
As soon as you open the door.
Oh, yeah.
The first picture I can remember is the picture of Paul standing right here.
Yep.
Working on, I think he was working on a drill press.
Yeah.
Which is
that
there.
drill press. Yeah.
As soon as you open the door, that picture popped in my head.
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, dude, this is, I don't know how to explain it. The only other 2 times it's ever happened to me was, I'm not real religious.
Sure.
But I was in Arizona and I went to the Church of the Rock.
Okay. Is that like in Sedona or something?
In Sedona.
Okay, yeah.
And I walked in it and there was this overall feel.
Yeah.
I also was honored enough to escort a piece of World Trade Center steel.
Oh, wow.
From Brooklyn, New York to Princeton, New Jersey.
Wow.
And I got to touch a piece of that steel.
Yeah, that's...
And it was like this energy that came off of it. And today, you open the door.
Yeah.
I see the picture in my head.
Yep.
And then I go, boom. And I stand there. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm stoked that you saved it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it was just a shell when you got it, doesn't matter. The fact that you painstakingly tried to match things that are in here to pictures that, you know, are floating around.
Yeah.
Of, hey, this outlet's here. This drill press is here. That's huge, man.
I can't, it's like I got it and I couldn't not do that. Like there was no compromise. Like, and how the fuck are you going to get the Iron Factory and then not, like, at least for me, how are you going to get it and then not actually, I don't know how to put this in words. No. It's not it's not necessarily honoring it, because I mean, it was cared for years to get it to that stage. But I guess what went through my mind was, I can't fail, basically, you know?
Yeah.
And especially I love Tom and Mick, and now I've got a personal connection with them, and I can't, you know, I said that I would do it, you know?
Yeah, well, the amount of people that, you know, Paul's life touched in the tattoo world is unmeasurable. You know, the lineage that he came from, Cap Coleman.
Yeah.
I mean, the history runs deep. It's something special, man,
Charlie
for
Bars.
sure.
Yeah.
I just,
I mean,
know.
actually, and I have pictures of it. In the first tattoo machine, electric tattoo machine, lived in this shed. I mean, Paul had it. Paul had the real McCoy. Mm. It could have been just an Edison autographic engraver, but from what I've been told, it was O'Reilly's Edison from the patent.
Okay.
And I've never seen it, and I've talked to a lot of historians. I don't know anyone that has it. I don't know where it went. there's a lot of stories of where did a lot of the stuff that lived in here go. And there's I feel like there's a couple different camps.
Yeah.
And you learn that, and I think at the end of the day, you kind of, as somebody that wasn't even really even around, you kind of just have to listen to the stories and kind of translate to keep telling the stories properly or to the best of your ability, right?
Yeah. I interviewed RC.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know who RC is, but
Guy's
if you're
great.
from the Philly or the East
Love
Coast, you
talking to him.
probably do.
Yeah.
To this day, one of his fondest memories is going down to Jacksonville, working with Paul for 3 days, and why Paul built him a machine that he still has and treasures.
Yep.
You know, a lot of old timers say if you give back to tattooing what you take from it,
You have to.
you're gonna live.
Yep. You have
And
to.
I mean live in
Yeah.
lore,
Yeah.
not live.
Yeah. Yeah. Tattooing will give you what you put into it.
Right.
100% hands down. There's no questions about it. This building that you're sitting in, everything I have is because of tattooing.
There you go.
Okay. Everything is, I mean, the pure reason I'm a machinist is because of tattooing. I wanted to make the device better to the best of my ability. I want to preserve our, insanely rich history to the best of my ability. I hope, I think some of the younger tattooers that don't quite yet understand the history, I try to say it that way so it doesn't sound off-putting, but it's for their best interest. And I can't sit here and say something is for somebody else's best interest, but until you get that breadth of the beautiful history that we kind of sit upon, you don't understand it, and it can only navigate you. It can only help navigate you through the tattoo business. And I think that there's a saying: history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you look at what's happened before, you can at least get a sense of what could happen in the future.
Right.
Napoleon said, if those that don't honor history are doomed to repeat it, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Something like that. Something in those.
So if people want to get a hold of you, how do they get in touch with you?
Just Instagram. I'm sure there'll be a link and everything. And I answer DMs or emails. I've had a few people out, and we've done this class. There's some cost involved, but it covers the cost of just basically the event. And it's not big because I can't handle too many people. But basically, we build tattoo machines the way that Paul would build them, and we talk about things and we learn to the best of our abilities, as with a hacksaw and a file.
Yeah.
And we'll weld or braze things together, and we walk away with working tattoo machines that are seemingly like one that Paul would have built.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right, cool, man. Dude, thank you for hanging out with me
awesome.
today.
Yeah, for sure.